My name's Kevin Neal with the TWAIN Working Group, and I'm joined here by my colleague, Aaron Dempsey, who will be our co-host for today's
Hi.
event. And we're very excited to have a very special guest today, Walt Thinfen of Visioneer. And we've got a presentation entitled Visioneer VAST for the Xerox D70n with TWAIN Direct-enabled. So it's a very exciting time for the TWAIN Working Group, and I think for Visioneer, in that Visioneer has been a long time advocate for the TWAIN Direct project, and they actually have. I muted that time.
Sorry about that, Kevin.
That's okay. And Visioneer has the first TWAIN Direct embedded hardware scanner on the market. It's a very exciting development, and we're going to be able to share that with you today. So let's go ahead and get started on our presentation. So first of all, our special guest today is Walt Thinfen. He is the CEO at Visioneer. He's been at Visioneer for 21 years, and he's very focused on modern technologies with mobile, cloud, distributed scanning, security. Walt also has a long history of providing solutions as a CIO and director of IT, implementing technologies such as SAP, Oracle, IBM, Microsoft. And he also has experience as startups in the 80s and 90s. So he's got a well-rounded background for this kind of innovation that you'll be seeing today. So his technical background, his business background. One important bullet point that I skipped, but I wanted to highlight on this slide, was that Visioneer is a Xerox trademark licensee. And Walt can explain that to you, but it's a very significant thing as we go to market with these kind of solutions. So we're very excited to have Walt participating in the event today. First, before we begin and before I turn it over to Walt, I just wanted to make some general observations about the IT market in general and some trends in the scanner industry. They're pretty obvious to those of us in the industry, but it's significant because what's happening is, I think everybody knows with the advent of smartphones and mobile phones, everybody is traveling with their phones or tablets. It's a mobile-enabled world. So PC shipments are decreasing. It's a fact. Read all the industry analyst firms. PC shipments are down, and IoT shipments are up. And so smartphones are IoT devices with IP addresses, and network scanners are IoT devices with IP addresses. So Walt will talk about the D70n in a minute, but that's basically what's happening, is that the networks, the scanners are coming with network-enabled interfaces like Ethernet or Wi-Fi or 5G. Specifically in the scanner industry, a lot of the old scanners that were built with the big touch screens, they're actually coming with smaller screens or non-existent screens. So this is why a mobile interface is a nice complement to network attached scanners. And then also the decoupling of technologies like OCR or image processing that used to be inside of the box is now coming as a cloud service that complements the scanner. So basically these trends are something that's tried and true, and the whole industry is going this direction. And Visioneer has done a wonderful job of embracing these kind of obvious trends and built a platform and a product for this kind of technology. So I just wanted to set the stage, and then Walt, at this point, I want to turn it over to you so you could talk about your technology, which is very exciting, and then your hardware, software platform. And then I think you have some slides on some personas, which is really good for the industry to understand, because TWAIN Working Group is a technology group, and we don't really, we're not a full solutions provider, and the personas of who might buy this and who would be interested should be very interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I'm real pleased to be here with all of you today. And as Kevin said, Visioneer is a exclusive Xerox trademark licensee. And in fact, this conversation has taken place. I'm sitting inside the Xerox Executive Briefing Center in New York City. If you guys can all see the background, that's not fake, it's actually real. And as soon as we're done with with this conversation, I'm going to be sharing some of the similar slides with some of the executives here at Xerox New York City office as well. So our goal today is that each of you could walk away with something that you could potentially implement in your business. We're witnessing lots of changes. Our industry is facing lots of threats. Supply chain, I think all of us in the scanner business have felt it since March of April of 2020. Pandemic, and plus what Karen talked about earlier, more and more documents are being born digital. So how do we stay relevant? So I do believe one of the biggest threat is not the pandemic or the supply chain. The biggest threat for us is to not moving forward. We live in a very fast-paced, fast-changing world. Customers want mobile, they want network, and they want these to be highly secured, right? We at Visioneer listen to our customers, what our customers have been saying, that they want devices that are easily deployed, managed and used over a network that is cloud-friendly, shareable, and easily integratable to their own back-end applications. So what happened during the pandemic? We all have to learn how to work remotely, right? Eventually adopting ways to best fully equip our knowledge workers and staff to easily share documents and equipment that are mobile friendly, that's shareable over the network, that, by the way, that are very easily done without a bunch of proprietary code every time new solutions or integration is rolled out. So I believe the degree in which we plan, prepare, and execute these premises determine our success in this journey to transform ourselves from just being standalone scanner devices to what Kevin had alluded to earlier, which is really the explosion of IoT devices that are on the edge of the network, where the action is really taking place, and capturing that information and bringing it to sharing it securely across the network. So Visioneer's VAST Network was actually built based on the TWAIN Direct open source. It's a zero footprint, fast deployment without our own specific codes with feature-rich user experience. It directly supports network communications between desktop, mobile applications, and scanning devices. It minimizes the coding, obviously, of every time you want to roll out something, whether it be a full feature image capture solutions, what have you, while enhancing the user experience. So as we can see here on this slide that Kevin is sharing, I think everybody's allowed this to sink in a bit. What's really interesting, what we've developed on the TWAIN Direct solutions here, with our first scanner, the D70n, which is a native network scanner, but connected to the network, to the LAN. You don't necessarily have to have a native network scanner. You can take a USB connected scanner, and in this case, it's Xerox Document 6440 that Kevin is pointing to, connected to a desktop that is connected to the network, and it will actually mimic a network-enabled device. So you can share that device with other coworkers in your environment. You can scan from that device, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we're doing. But presently today, we have the ability to scan both from USB connected scanners as well as native network scanners to cloud, to mobile, to other PCs, and other PCs can share the same device as well. Just like a a network connected device on your secure network. Next slide. So in the D70 network scanner, I'm not going to talk about speed and feed, despite the fact that that's what we focus on most of the time in our business. I like to focus more on the fact that this scanner comes ready with VAST. So it's very easily deployed on your network. You can share it with other people in your group, and you can scan. Presently, we have an Android mobile app that you can scan to that Android mobile app. So instead of trying to see what you scan, you can actually scan and preview, save, share, or send the document from your Android device. We're working on an iOS app soon to be released sometimes this year, later this year, but presently we're shipping it with the Android mobile capture. Next. So who's going to use these products and why? We, like I said at the beginning, we listen to our users. And why would they use it? Well, because it's easy, because it's going to save a lot of money. For a pro user, professional user wants something like this because it's highly configurable into their workflow, into their environment. To a knowledge worker, it's highly reliable and predictable. To a system integrator, and we've listened to a lot of system integrator, application developer, everybody's saying, yeah, I want something that is flexible, easy to build, my own turnkey solution that I can then resell to my specific customers' needs. To an IT manager who wants nothing more than just a simple, easy to deploy and maintain devices on their network that is secure. Next slide. So we looked at the different personas and what each of these different personas would be looking to do in a when they have this type of capabilities. So as a pro user, I would expect everything to be able to share on my network, not everything, but things that I wanted to share, I can share it from my network simply by having that scanner plugged into to the network. Be able to set up digital signature to validate my scanned image. Encryption is enabled. Again, it's nothing proprietary that we wrote. It's all part of the code base with TWAIN Direct. Be able to connect my scanner securely to the cloud service. So there was a little bit of work that we had to do there, but the code base was already ready. It was basically the last mile integration that we had to do with different cloud services. Cloud registration, basically registering your device on the cloud, and Kevin is going to show us how to do that. Real simple and very intuitive. And by the way, a lot of times when we load up software and things that the scanner needed to do, sometimes the rated speed is compromised. In this case, I do not want to see my rated speed compromised because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very thin client that runs behind the scenes. So there's not a lot of overhead here. Next slide. As a knowledge worker, being part of a larger enterprise, some of the things that I would like to do if I'm in that type of environment is I like to be able to use customized workflow that is efficient, that my scanner can easily connect to. As I said earlier, these scanners are developed on the TWAIN Direct, or in our case, VAST, so it can easily be connected to back-end applications or workflow that is unique to customers. We can push documents to those workflows. We can quickly scan. We can do all your image enhancement, image correction, such as auto rotation, blank page removal, all of those things that we're all familiar with that we expect from a scanner. All of this could be implemented in the workflow. Next slide. As a system integrator, and this is where it gets really interesting, my expectation is to have an SDK for developing those robust turnkey desktop, mobile, or cloud application. Again, using open source, modern programming languages and technologies that has been fully vetted and adopted. So it's there for you to use. It's all part of the SDK, and the TWAIN working groups got their SDK. Kevin can talk to you about how to acquire the SDK. We're developing our own SDK because we're developing some extensions to the existing TWAIN working group SDK. To have an extensive control as a system integrator, you would probably want to have further control over the scan workflow. One of the key feature of this technology is that it's a driverless deployment. It's basically just logging on a web URL, register your scanner, and you could be up and running. So it's really, really easy to procure and deploy devices, especially if you're in a very large environment. Next slide. So as an IT administrator, it's a real headache when we have all kinds of devices tethered off of our network, and how do we manage, how do we secure, and how to control, and how do we know what device, what kind of use is being used for each devices that is on the network. So there's a framework for managing these secure network connections. Ability again to configure and manage your deployed devices without really being there. So if you're in a campus environment, you're in a deployment that spans multiple buildings, multiple cities, you can very easily ship out scanners to different offices. They simply pull it out of the box, attach it to the network, and you as the admin can remote into it just like you would remote into any network appliance and configure that scanner. You can set policies and governance, which in most large organizations, everybody's trying to comply to certain IT policies and governance. Is very easy. It's all there. It's all part of the package. And again, it's a centralized workflow. So when you develop a certain workflow that you want to deploy it to the field, to everybody, say in sales or in marketing or in finance to use, you can remotely push those workflows out to all the users. So instead of getting in front of each user's desktop or laptop and manually configure the workflow, saves a bunch of money and headache. Next slide.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'll take it over for a few slides. I think that perspective and sharing those personas is something very valuable for our industry, because we talk a lot about the technology, but you have to imagine the future for some of these newer kind of technologies, because there really isn't a blueprint. So let me talk about the traditional way that we would deploy scanners. And most of us on this call have been in the imaging industry connecting scanners and software for a long time. But sometimes, you know, it helps to state the obvious. So usually with traditional scanners, we would take the USB scanner and unbox it, connect it to a PC. On that PC, you're installing the operating system. You're doing all the Windows updates for the operating system itself. So that, I mean, I've done this many, many, many times, and it takes a long time to install the operating system. Then once the operating system is ready to go and all the updates are done, then you install the scanner driver, whether it's the TWAIN driver, the ISIS driver, VRS, whatever. You're installing the driver, you're configuring the driver settings, then you're installing the capture software sometimes, and you're configuring that software. And then you might even be installing a business application. So the point of this slide is that it's very time consuming to provision a traditional scanning system and get it ready. And oftentimes this really frustrates software companies that just want to get a scanner deployed and then have people start using their software. So this is the way it has been done there's been tens of millions of scanners sold this way, and it's a tried and true way, but there's definitely a better way to do it. And that's what Visioneer has come up with the D70n, as Walt mentioned. So it is a high-speed USB plus Ethernet scanner. So the way that we would use it for the TWAIN Direct is basically just plug in the Ethernet. Then you go to the web interface, and I'll show you in just a second here. And then you register the scanner with a cloud server. And it literally takes just a few minutes from unboxing, plugging in a power, getting an IP address, and then registering it. So it's a super easy way to deploy scanners. This is what the interface looks like, and I'll actually show you a live demo right now. So let me go back here. So all you would do is find your scanner on your network. In this case, here I've found my D70n on my local network. It's behind my firewall at my house in my office. And this is the local IP address I got, 192.168.1.180. And it's very easy to detect that. So once I have this, I will actually delete this and start from scratch. So I've logged into the web interface of the scanner itself. This isn't an application that I had to install at all. I just went, the scanner itself has this little web servers that host the configuration. And you can see all the different settings, like Walt mentioned. You can add encryption with the advanced security. You can do firmware updates. You can manage the scanner all from a web interface. For the purpose of this conversation, I want to show registration. So here I could register with a local server, but we'll register it with a cloud server. And my cloud server is this URL address. So you can actually register the scanner with multiple endpoints, multiple cloud servers. Here is Visioneer's VAST Network. So you can see I just have I have this by default, but let me register it with the third-party service first. So I'll name this Kevin's Xerox D70n scanner. You just press the register button and you press login. And what it's going to do is register it with the cloud service. So I use my credentials here. This is single sign-on. Now it says it's successfully registered with TWAIN Cloud. So you can see this registration here. Now, if I go back to my application and refresh this, log in again to my app because changes have been made. Then I could go over here and I could see the scanners registered here. So let me delete this out and delete these out and start from scratch one more time. So I have no scanners here. So let's do a registration again, same idea. And go here.
Is that easy, Kevin?
Easy.
So simple and easy.
Easy. So now over here, you see it's registered. Log in here. And here's my scanner. So that's how easy it is to deploy these. And I've seen situations where, yeah, this getting a scanner connected to the network with traditional drivers and stuff takes days. So that's the registration process. So it's super easy, and I'll go back to actually doing a scan in a second here, but that's the registration process with the D70n. Super simple, easy. The same way with registering with the VAST network. So you can see there's just default VAST, and actually I'll register the second one. How about that? So same way, I will just add VAST network, register. Add, register, login, select the login. Choose your account, and it's registered. So now it's registered with these two endpoints, and I can have different applications, different workflows for each one of those registered cloud servers. So that's how easy it is to register it. Okay. So after that's done, one of the business benefits of this is that there's no PC involved in that registering of that scanner. So one of the key things is that you could take away the hardware expense of the PC itself. So if I just take an average PC, I just took a Dell computer at $895 per computer, plus the operating system software, plus antivirus software. This is the basic configuration to get a PC provisioned. So it's like roughly $1,000 to get a scan PC provisioned. And if you amortize that over a couple different configurations, maybe 50 units, 200 units, 500 units, it becomes significant, So being able to directly network attach this scanner and then remotely manage it and remotely maintain it and create different workflows. Actually, you could justify the expense of VAST and the D70Ns by just eliminating the PC cost itself. Walt, you also have an interesting use case here that I wanted to talk about, and then we can go into actually doing a scan and showing the different workflows. But this kind of configuration where the scanner and the user on different networks, they're using internet-based technologies like the VAST system to scan. Can you talk to this use case a little bit? Because I think this is where a lot of the interest is in network attached scanning and cloud services.
Yeah, so first of all, the device to scan is not necessarily on the same subnet, right? I think everybody can see it here. Scanner is connected to, right, exactly. And as Kevin and I had mentioned earlier, in a campus environment or distributed work environment, which we all are forced to have to deal with, right? In most offices, very few people go to the office, and opening mail and sorting that mail and scanning, distributing invoices out. And we're using this technology today ourselves. All our invoices are basically scanned and shared over the network, or in some cases cloud, with different folks, because for example, our VP of Sales, Jim Tamo, during COVID, office is closed, but there's documents and invoices and things that he has to review and approve. He never had to come to the office, right? He can scan and he can see it from wherever he's at. So scanner in this case is actually in different location than the user, connected over the cloud by simply registering, as Kevin has shown us. I actually timed it, Kevin, when he did that. It's about 5 seconds it took to register. You must have really, really powerful, fast internet. But it was it was really fast. And the operator in this case, it can feed the paper at one location and it's actually surfaces in a different location in almost real time. So, and by the way, the transport mechanism by which the images are shared are actually encrypted, as Kevin and I had mentioned earlier, and secured over the network. So none of these documents that is being shared could ever be intercepted by someone else and be able to, so you never have to worry about your document being compromised. Kevin, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, there's definitely two use cases I'm familiar with for this kind of configuration. So a mobile branch deposit banking, there's actually some use cases where systems integrators have put a network scanner plus a video conferencing system in a remote branch. It's like a kiosk that they've built. And actually, so the person that's going to apply for a bank loan or a car loan or whatever, they walk into the local branch and there's a tray of applications there that they physically fill out. And while they walk up to the kiosk, they initiate a video conference with a loan agent that's in a remote location. And the remote agent says, hey, can you just take that document from the tray there, fill out the physical paperwork, and then put it in the tray of the scanner. And then I will initiate a scan, bring that document back, then review the information. And almost in real time, I can give you a yay or nay on your loan. And you can imagine what kind of convenience that is for the banking system, because they don't have to have a physical person in the branch. They just have a computer with a kiosk and a video conferencing system and a network attached scanner in that branch. And then the one agent can service a lot of different customers. So for the bank itself, that's a really great service, but also for the client themselves, they get an immediate response and they have, personal attention because that one agent can service them remotely. So remote banking is a good application. The second one that's also really good for this kind of configuration is telemedicine. So a lot of people right now, during the pandemic, you didn't want to go to the hospital. So there was a lot of go into a local clinic, and it's same kind of scenario, have a kiosk there where they go into the local, clinic instead of traveling to the hospital that might be hundreds of miles away or long distance or kind of a risk. They go into this telemedicine place and they initiate a scan with the doctor, same way. And they say, hey, I need some forms. I need your ID. I need your insurance card. Basically, it's a doctor's visit, but we're going to do it all remotely. And they do a video conference, but they need some documents. So they have the physical forms there and they say, can you fill out these physical forms? We can admit you, I can get your medical record and any kind of allergies, you put them on there and fill out the forms. So there's a couple ways that this kind of scenario is very useful. So this kind of scenario is definitely probably one of the future.
And if I could add one more thing, I think we all know the immediacy, the want to see what you've actually scanned. In some cases, in this PC-less environment, you can scan and view the image that you've just scanned on your mobile device. So as you can see on the network where Kevin laid out for us, there's mobile devices, iPads or any type of pads, iPhone, Android. The idea is we don't need to invest and spend so much money on these scanner with a big glass screen on top of it that add so much more cost to it. You can just take a standard USB scanner and plug it to this type of network, scan it, be able to view your image in real time, decide if you want to rescan it again or not, and then you can then move on with your scan application. You can move it to your scan app later. So it's another way to take, say, a 6440, a Xerox 6440, which doesn't have a touch screen, and basically enable it by simply having it easily integrated to a mobile device.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say about this is that This also is a good architecture for things like Windows updates. Like right now, Windows 11 is coming out and people want to start roll out Windows 11. With the D70n, because there's no PC involved, and it's just a web service making web services calls to a cloud server, then operating systems are completely out of the picture. So you don't need new Windows 11 drivers, and you don't need to worry about, is it compatible with Mac or Linux? So this extends it to a lot of other devices, like Walt said, mobile devices, any kind of web browser interfaces. So there's a lot more ways that you can utilize existing systems and integrate without having to worry about upgrades. So let's talk about third-party integrations. And I'm going to use the single sign-on. I've already showed it a little bit, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. This is an example of using the VAST APIs or SDKs or the TWAIN Direct SDKs APIs and integrating a third party. And the one I'm going to use is on authentication. So the single sign-on and LDAP, Active Directory authentication. But there's a lot of other software out there. There's OCR software, capture software, storage software. So if you're an ISV or systems integrator that wants to take a third-party application and integrate it into this kind of use case and this kind of platform, then there's a way to do it. So this is just a disclaimer. This is not part of the TWAIN Direct specification yet. We're working on adding this possibly in the future, but let me show you what this looks like. So we have a, let me log out here. So all of this is using the VAST API and the TWAIN Direct API behind the scene. But what we have here is a identity server, and we have a login screen here. You can obviously create a new account by registering, and then the administrator will approve the accounts, or they can set up automatic approval. It depends on the administrator. But you register for an account, and once you have an account, you actually log into your system via SAML 2.0 or OpenID Connect or whatever kind of authentication scheme you're using. You'll log in, and then you'll notice here it's going to the SAML 2.0 single sign-on. So we've actually logged in with single sign-on. So you can see I've got an application here. And I think one of the most important things for this conversation is that we actually have the scanner that I registered earlier listed. So here's the scanner, here's the name, here's the model number of the scanner. So it's super simple, easy. I haven't had to install any driver here, any application, any operating system, well, just the Windows operating system I was already running, but it could be Linux, Mac, like I just said. It's pure 100% web-based. There's no installation of software whatsoever. So in our demo application, I just press select, and I have the name of the scanner. It was last active a few seconds ago. I don't have any scans here, but it shows some metrics once I do a scan. So you can see the scanner's idle. And to scan, all I do, and I'm actually going through the step-by-step just so you can see the steps, but we could have just had a one button initiated scan and scan. But just to show the workflow, we start a session, and I'll say, this is a TWAIN working group and Visioneer demo. So this is just a name of a session, and then you can put some kind of optional description if you want to. So it's reserving the scanner. Obviously, it's a physical scanner that can only scan, documents for one person. So it's reserving the scanner. It says the scanner's reserved. It gave you a little notification. And here's some of my scanner settings. So I just press start capturing, and it's going to actually initiate a scan and pull it through my scanner that was sitting next to me here. So now the 70N, it starts extremely fast. You saw how quickly, once I pressed that button, initiated, started scanning right away. And it pulled over a 2-page full color image, 2 pages front and back, over in just a second. So that's where VAST Network and TWAIN Direct Cloud came in. It actually sent that cloud request. It took that image and brought it over. So now you can preview the image here. You can, if you're an integrator, you can add an annotation. And then as part of the workflow, you can have the workflow automatically do steps. But in this case, I wanted to show an example of doing post-processing. So I want to send it to a classification service. And then I want to send it to SharePoint, and I want to send it to Abby for translation, and I'll send it to Salesforce. So this is kind of a workflow that I could do post-process. And to send it, I just press upload to workflow, and then it's going to go through the next steps of the scanning process. So that's the whole idea, is keeping this super simple. There's a lot of things that you can use, a developer or use an integrator or use a reseller or use an end user can configure the different ways that to use the system. But that's how easy it is to actually get the D70n registered and actually using it in a useful business workflow in literally minutes. In the time of this webinar that we spent 41 minutes, including all the personas and the information that we shared, I've actually registered a scanner, brand new as it would be out of the box, and then actually sent it to some workflows to do things like I said, classification, OCR, and then send it into workflows. So that's how simple that deploying scanners and using scanners should be. And that's why, you know, the TWAIN working group's very excited to work with Visioneer and Xerox on this new solution.
Great, Kevin.
Yep. So let's go ahead and recap this webinar. If there is questions, please chat them, or we can unmute you here. But I want to summarize the event that we had today. And Walt, thank you very much for the great information. You know, again, the TWAIN working group's a technology group. So this kind of education where people can imagine new kinds of solutions and new ways to implement technologies and really revitalize, you know, digitizing documents and capturing easy the way it should be, not the way it has been, is really important for our industry. And I think that, you know, I've been in the industry a long time. I think there's so many use cases for document capture that haven't been available. It was too hard, too complicated, too expensive. And now with this way to connect and you know, use cloud services and use mobile devices, it opens up a whole new way of doing things. So we showed easy one-time registration via the web browser. You just go to the web browser, you register it. We've actually taken the scanner. I took my scanner that I was using at home and I gave it to my developers, and they were passing it around to different people on different networks. They didn't have to re-register it. It keeps the registration. So it's literally one-time registration to the cloud service, and then you never have to do that again. So we've confirmed that. Fast scanning speeds and quick start. Last thing I hate is pressing a button and then waiting. You know, so when you press it, there's instant response. You saw how fast the scanner reacted, and fast scanning speeds. We've also scanned big batches. I don't know how many use cases really need 200 pages, but if you do have that use case, we've been loading them up. The feeder holds 100 pages, but we just kept loading it. We didn't see any kind of like scanner degradation speed other than my network overloaded a few times, but I think that was an issue with my network. We support push and pull scanning. So push scanning is typically how people think about network scanners. You go up to the device, you have a touch screen, and you push it somewhere. And that in Visioneer, the VAST network supports push, certainly from the touch screen, but it also supports pull. Walt mentioned his Android application. You just saw the web application. So no matter what you want to do, push or pull scanning, you know, that's covered. Whatever device you want to use or whatever kind of operating system. So we support the touchscreen push scanning. We support mobile devices, like Walt said. He's got Android, he's got iOS coming. Then web. So any kind of web browser, you just don't have to install anything. You just have to use a web browser, pull in the images, and then like you saw, you can have a preloaded workflow where it automatically sends it to downstream, or you could select it after the scan. It's your choice. Deployment of this, it doesn't have to be just in a public cloud. It could be in a private cloud. It could be even on premise. So some of these systems are run as Kubernetes images. So you just, if you can run a Kubernetes, you could just run it on your own premise if you want to, or there's public cloud availables. And then I think the real exciting thing, and Walt mentioned it, is the third-party integration possibilities. There's just endless possibilities to to have there's millions of applications out there that could probably use real ad hoc transactional capture. That's easy to do. You know, a lot of these applications, Salesforce doesn't have native integration, and Box doesn't have native integration. There's so many applications. SharePoint doesn't even have native capture. So there's a lot of ways for third parties to integrate. So let's see if we have any questions here, Walt, that we can answer from the audience.
Kevin, I got a question in here. Somebody said they don't get why they need mobile if you still have to put paper in the scanner.
That's a good question. I get asked a lot. Walt, you want to take that one, or you want me to?
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay.
Kevin. You're on a roll, buddy.
Okay. So when people say mobile capture, they always think of capturing from the smartphone camera. And I think enough of us have tried that now to know if you're trying to get a full sheet of paper, it's not so easy because these have different kinds of megapixels. They have different image processing, my hand shaking, the lighting, you know. So if you're scanning, you know, a full sheet of paper, you're not scanning, like mobile's great for receipts and business cards, for small artifacts. But if you want to scan a full sheet of paper and you need really good image quality because you're going to do OCR to it, you want to use a dedicated scanner to get the image, but you can use this to drive the experience. So imagine I walk up to my scanner. I still have to put the documents in the scanner, of course, but I just walk up and the scanner's detected that I'm close in proximity. So it's warmed up the lamps of the scanner. And it says, hey, Kevin, you know, I noticed you're close to this scanner. Would you like to scan? And my application just pops up a scan button. And I just press scan. And then, like Walt said, you know, some of these scanners have really small screens. You can't do image preview. So I can actually preview the image, like through their Android app. You can actually preview the image on a nice quality screen that you already have in your hand. And then you can actually say, okay, that's good. I want to send it on to my destination. So image preview is a really good reason. The comfort of me using my own device just as a good user experience. Authenticating. What if I had to type in a username and password? On these small touch software keyboards, it's like impossible to type Neal and blah blah blah, and then my password it's got all these complexity things and it's 20 characters long. So authentication and image preview, I think, are one of the key things to use these devices to complement the scanner. Don't use the camera itself as the capture component, but use this quality scanner with this as the user experience.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
So if a software development company wanted to create their own cloud solution, can you kind of recap what tools would be available for them to do that?
Yeah, you want me to take this one, Walt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question too, because both Walt and I both of us have advocated, you know, third-party integrations or what can make, you know, take this platform and then add your own secret sauce to it, and then you don't have to worry about maintaining scanner drivers and scanning application. You could focus on the business logic of your application or the value of your application. So in those cases, from the TWAIN working group's perspective, we do have a well-documented TWAIN Direct API specification. So that's available on our GitHub. If you just Google, I think it's just github.com/TWAIN Direct. You can just go to our GitHub repository and we have the API documentation for the TWAIN Direct API. We also have some sample source code. Well, we have a lot of sample source code, actually. We have sample source code for a TWAIN cloud server. We have some mobile sample source codes. So you can take that and you can look at the code and work with it a little bit, and you can actually build an application. Walt did mention he also has, you know, the VAST SDK coming. So if you want to integrate with the VAST system, then you can, you know, contact Walt and get his stuff. But definitely the TWAIN working group has documentation, has source code. We also do have a technical forum, so you can go on the forum and actually ask questions or ask for help. and then there's a community that can help you with the specification. We're very engaging as a TWAIN working group also. So, we do these kind of events, and if you ask us a question, send us an email or call us. We're very responsive.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Walt. Actually, I have a question. Just suppose if I'm not a Visioneer or Xerox user, normally just as a customer, I'm using Canon, Kodak or Fujitsu. By the specification or by the features and certification with the TWAIN Direct, uh, almost all brands have the same features, same certification. What is the unique USP? Like, why should I go with the Visioneer instead of the Kodak or instead of the Fujitsu? If I see the catalogs, specifications, or technical features, uh, somehow I find the same utility supports as well as PPM and the specification in the Kodak as well as in Fujitsu and other brands. What is the USP, unique USP that make me to turn for the Visioneer?
Well, I could start, Walt, but maybe you should add some color. So Visioneers, first of all, they were one of the original pioneers of the TWAIN Direct development effort. So they've been in this for a long time. And specifically for USB scanners, Visioneer has created software. It's on one of the first slides, Network Scan Manager. And it's actually, they've added their secret sauce to what the TWAIN working group open source.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Actually, I'm not talking about USB. USB unique selling point for Visioneer instead of other brands like or what point for using Visioneer as compared to the other brands? Like while we are just reviewing the catalogs, the specifications, key features, till I'm not using the Visioneer product, probably I'll be a bit confused instead of because the specification and features in every brand like Kodak, like Fujitsu, somehow we find the same specification, some a little bit lower or higher. So while choosing, what is the unique selling or unique using point which will attract us or as a user to try Visioneer?
So I can try to answer that, Kevin. So as Kevin and I have been demonstrating, we're the first. We have probably, the TWAIN working group has lots of members. Everybody contributes, such as Visioneer, such as Kodak, such as Fujitsu. But I think really in terms of unique selling proposition, is anyone else give you the capability to do what Kevin just showed us. It took seconds to provision, deploy, provision, manage, and enable a scanner on you securely over the web. And so that's something we need to be asking ourselves, who's actually ready to give you the tool set to enable you on this journey to actually control your device securely within your network over the web using a web browser.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more, if there's one more question. Okay, if there's I want to respect everybody's time. So if there's another question or two, we could probably answer that. But I did want to make sure that we announce just late breaking news. So our next webinar is going to be with special guest Harvey Spencer, and it's going to be on December 9th. And we're still working on a title for this, but I think we'll have it out today. And then if we do confirm the Harvey's talk track, then we will be sending out an invitation in the next day or so. But we're excited to Harvey's. He's monitored the progress of the TWAIN working group and the TWAIN Direct project for a long time. He's for those of you that know, he's a longtime industry expert on this stuff, and I think he'll provide some great insight into what we've been talking about
Indeed.
today.
Indeed.
So with that, Walt, thank you so much again. I think you brought a fresh perspective to this technology from your experience, and you've laid out some places that maybe us in the industry can think about deploying this kind of technology and using this technology, how we can make our businesses better, how we can help our clients. And you share a lot of valuable information about personas and the opportunities with the technology and how we can really move this forward. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Kevin, and thanks to Aaron. This, I don't know if this deck of slides going to go out or the podcast will be shared, but it's got my direct contact information here. Kevin can also put direct contact. I see our VP of Sales, Jim Tamos, on the line. There's any question that or any further interest in the Xerox D70n, Jim and his team is prepared and happy to take on those specific questions. And I'm reachable anytime if anybody has any further questions or use case they want to run by both Kevin and myself. We're always looking for a use case that we can do proof of concept around. So please do come forth and share them with us. Thank you.
And
Definitely.
I think, yep. Thanks, everybody. And by the way, the podcast will be available. Aaron will send out a email about the recording, and we thank everybody for attending today.
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Walt.
Kevin. Thank you,
Thanks.
Walt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.